You've become expert at slope-intercept, endpoint slope form. So now we're going to take a look at how would those show up in word problems. And we'll do some of those in y equals mx plus b form, some of those in y minus y equals mx minus x form. Begin by taking a moment to read this scenario. We're going to use it in both our examples that we're going to use. So go ahead and pause the video so that you can read and understand what's going on here. So our job is to take this scenario, which is happening in the real world or in English, and turn it into math language. So the steps that you see below are going to slowly start turning this into math language. Almost any time you're in a word problem, you should start off with a variable. And what's happening here is each day your account total changes, and D is going to represent the number of days you are along. So now how do we turn that into an equation? You translate and you say, okay, well, my account value started out at $150, but then every day I lost money, so we subtract, and we subtract $7.50 per day. Your equation should match the scenario, it's just a different language. The amount of money you have is equal to your starting amount minus how much you spend every single day. Now, if I wanted to know when will my account total be $15, then I can take that $15 and replace it with the account value, and now I have an equation that I can solve. My account value is $15, everything else stays the same, and now I do all the algebra steps I come to know, and I find out that after 18 days, my account value is at $15. But now let's take a look at this equation that we built. And it's in y equals mx plus b form, but it's slightly distorted. So I'm going to take this, and I'm going to go down here, and I'm going to write out y equals mx plus b. And the 7.5d, this is minus 7.5x. The 150 is the y-intercept. We're used to having the variable term first and then the term without the variable. When we did our equation up here, we had kind of reversed the order, which is totally fine. But now if I take this and rewrite it, my brain easily sees the slope and it easily sees the y-intercept. In this case, the y-intercept of 150 represents the amount of money we started with. And then you would see that the slope, the negative 7.5, is the money that we spend each day. So now we could graph this equation. The y-intercept is 150, so that's the very first point I would ever graph. And then the slope is negative 7.5, and somebody could write that as negative 7.50 over 1. The negative tells me my line would be decreasing, but the problem is to graph a down 7.5 over 1, down 7.5 over 1, it's not necessarily going to go very smoothly on a coordinate grid like this, so I've got another option for you. It is always a possibility to create a table, and when you create a table, you can just choose any x value you want, plug it in, and see what the y value is. So for example, if I concentrate on this one, what happened is I took an 8 and plugged it in for x, and then worked it out to see what my y value would be. I've taken the time to write that out right here. I took my equation, I could even use that equation, plugged in an x for 8 or days, and then I just did the math and I got a 90 for account total. That 890 could be thought of as the ordered pair 8 comma 90, in which case I can just go over here 890 and plot that point. In fact, I could do that for several points. So here I have the point 16 comma 30, 1630. And after you do a few points from your table, you have points on that line and you can graph that line. You really only need 2 of them. If you do 2 of them very carefully, you can connect the 2 and you have your line. It's super duper important to realize that these ordered pairs mean something. For example, the ordered pair 8, 90 says after 8 days, you have $90 left in your account. In this case, after 16 days, you have $30 left in your account. And finally, remember when we asked about the y-intercept, what does it represent? Here's our y-intercept, 150, or it's the point 0, 150, and that means on day 0, or when we started, the account had $150 worth of value. Okay, we're going to go over to the other side, and we're going to use point slope form, but we're going to use the same scenario, but go ahead and read this scenario. It's worded slightly differently, but it's still talking about the college student with the lunch account. Pause the video and read it, please. In this case, you might notice that they did not give you a starting value. They didn't tell you that on day 1, the account total was $150. So you don't have a y-intercept, so it's not very easy to use y equals mx plus b. But they did give you 2 points. Day 6, $105. Day 16, $30. So these are 2 points that I can use when I work on this form of the equation. Remember, when you use this form of the equation, you need 2 points, or actually any point, you just need 1 point, and you need a slope. Okay, well, now that I have 2 points, I can also calculate the slope. Y minus y over x minus x gives me my slope. That should look familiar from the other side. And you can now create the equation. There's my point slope form, and here I am using, in this case, I decided to use this point, but you could have used the other point, and now I have my equation of the line. If I turn back for a moment to the other side, this was the equation of the line that I got from the scenario where they gave me information about a starting value. This is the equation that I got when I didn't have a starting value information. Even though they look different, they're still representing the same scenario. These next 2 questions, now that you've seen the other side, you probably understand these pretty well. Any ordered pair means something in a problem. On day 4, I had $120 left. And in this case, there's my slope, and that's the amount of money we're spending each day. Finally, if I take those 2 points that we got from looking at this scenario, day 6, $105, day 16, $30, those are these points that I'm working with. I could put those on the coordinate grid, graph the 2 points, draw a line between the 2 points, and I have virtually the exact same line that I had when I used the other form, y equals mx plus b. 2 different ways to model the same scenario. So for a quick recap, when you're in a word problem and you see something that could represent a beginning value, in this case it was the $150 of the account on day 0, this is probably the form to use. If you read through a scenario and you see 2 points, but you don't see a starting value, this is probably the form that's going to make it easiest.